do you go when you need Scrooge glasses that have to be started from scratch? You come on over to Jeff. However, there's a lot more here than just a pair of glasses. Fine Scale Modeler has a great writer. He's worked in the industry for how many years now?
8 years.
38 years is like 100 in everybody else's life.
Pretty much, yes.
Today we visited a wonderful model maker friend. He's one of the people who helped us with the TV series Ebenezer. And one of the things that he created for us was a set of glasses that not only that Mr. Scrooge, played by me of course, could look through and actually read, but we had to make it come from the time period of Mr. Scrooge, which means take the glasses and create a base of them where the radials are removed, the glass looks old, the weathering takes place over a created shield, and they worked quite nicely.
Let me see. Oh.
I look like Mr. Scrooge again with darker hair. Don't ever forget that. Yeah, try them on.
Let me see. Oh, this is an honor.
Yes, it is an honor. Let's see you, Mrs. Scrooge. Mrs. Scrooge?
Sir.
Joann played Mrs. Dilber, right? I was going to say Dill Pickle.
It's so funny.
No, actually she played Mrs. Dilber.
Yes.
And that was a great part you did.
Thank you.
But without any further ado, let's go to the model making shop here in Long Island, New York, which is Jeff Pollizzotto's place of business and work, and follow up with him on what he does for a living, how he makes models and things for TV, and of course, Mr. Scrooge's glasses.
Ready? Let's go.
Let's do it.
So basically what we could do is use a channel to frame it. You could cut it straight, glue that on, and then paint it. This is an angle. It's a channel, actually, that I'm thinking maybe could be the basis of what we got to do here. Yeah, that kind of looks like it. This is, you use a sponge, a regular old sponge, and you get it wet with the paint, and then you dip most of it off, and then you just hit it.
So the whole glasses are really that color except for like little pieces of black.
Yeah. It's like a two-dimensional painting technique. You know. Which we use on all kinds of models, tanks and planes and spaceships and.
Yeah, now it's beginning to pop.
Yeah, see, now you. And then take it over and put it here. So you want to get most of it off.
I mean, when I was learning Photoshop that I wound up teaching, then use the same advice actually. You got to creep up on it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what you do. You don't want to just hit it, boom, and oh god, it's too much. This way you just bring it up slowly.
And you know what? It's probably more golder in the front because this way it doesn't steal from his eyes. Oh, I see.
Blending stumps.
Blending stumps. This is like amazing.
This I'm not sure is going to work because I've never done on clear, but let's see.
What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work. Yeah, just darken up all the edges, especially where the brakes are, because the brakes obviously collect more dust. Yeah, like all those corners where dust would collect. He probably doesn't clean his glasses very well, Scrooge.
Probably in a million years, huh?
There you go.
Now they're getting older looking.
Yeah, from the 1800s, they should be old, sir. So, the final, we ready for this?
We are ready. We're into it.
Wow. I'll hold it up with the light. Like this. Hard to see some of the silver in the decoration. The camera's doing no justice. Wow.
Well, that's usually the case. That's why you have to overdo things for film.
You sure did it. Between
did
my
it.
father's glasses and that, wow. Alright, the proof is in the pudding. Here we go. Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge now. Here we go. Get ready to touch up Scrooge's glasses. You can see we put the putty in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's now dry. And a little paint.
His intent was to feed Tiny Tim. In time, Tiny Tim grew stronger and became a fine young man.
It started, well, I was born in 1951, and my dad was a World War II vet, and he loved airplanes, and he got me into the airplanes, and we built, models together. We built wooden airplanes together, and I still love planes and cars, anything technological. It's just fun. And these in particular,
Talk.
these are the first planes I built with my dad, and there's a progression to it. This one, and he saved these, my gosh, forever, and he gave them to me a few years ago. This one he wrote on the bottom, when I built it, it was 2.5 years old on this one, and then progressed over years, or months, to this one, which was a little cleaner, and then this one, which is like the best of the three. And you can see the progression of the, knowledge, learning how to work with wood and things like that. So he saved these for me, and I built the case and the base and everything. So it's a little museum piece for me that I saved in honor of my dad. This one here, this is very, very special to me. This was built by my dad when he was a kid, building models. And this particular plane is a Corsair from World War II. This was when kits were in their infancy. This is when you got a box, and you got a bunch of wood, and a couple of plastic propellers and wheels, and you had to do everything. You had to sculpt it and sand it and shape it
And make a real model out of it.
and then paint it. And this
That's
is
really, to me,
this
a
is
great
one of my
thing.
favorite things that he's ever done. You can see it's old. It's got to be, 60 years old. So I watched the movie again for the umpteenth time because it's one of my favorites. And I said, the farmhouse scene where the war machine crashes into the farmhouse is perfect because that's where you see the Martian. And if you look at the scene, there's like wood debris and beams because after the ship crashes into the farmhouse, it's just a mess. So I decided that's the scene I want to duplicate. So what I did was I got real wood, and what I did is I got real balsa wood, made strips to duplicate flooring and debris, and I took the strips and I stained them, and then I broke them by hand just snapped them, and then I just laid them on here, gluing over them by one at a time. And the plaster is actual plaster. What I did is I took plaster and I sandwiched it through a couple of pieces of plastic to make it thin, and once it dried I just broke it and I glued it onto the base. So you can see all the plaster is real, all the wood is real, and the beam is a real piece of wood that I broke to simulate a beam. And the books came from the kit, and one of the books actually is War of the Worlds by
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. That book there it's actually War of the Worlds.
Guess the alien was reading War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Very cool. But there's something special about this one. He's also being featured in one of the magazines you're featured in, Fine Scale Modeler.
This was the November 2020 issue of Fine Scale, and you could see the Martian is on the cover.
Me too. Must be a nice story.
And the story is there.
Who took the photographs of this?
Me. I do my own photography. I have my little studio set up. And every time I build a model,
Yeah.
I record the construction.
Ah.
And I've done that for years just for my own, enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started submitting articles to Fine Scale, and they accepted a lot of them. And now I do it without even thinking. I take
What's the story consist of?
It's basically how I built that model.
Oh, okay.
It's showing how the construction was, how the lighting works, the base, the wood. You could see the wood flooring.
Oh, there it is. That you broke by hand.
Yeah, broke by hand. All the separate pieces I made, the plaster pieces, you could see, and then laying things out, because it's important to lay things out on the base, how you want it to look.
Absolutely, like comping up, yeah.
Yeah. Staining the wood, adding the electric to the eyes, painting.
That's a pretty good model of, I should say, a pretty good article. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word article.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting old thing again.
Getting old thing. Yeah, it's a good article, and they like these kind of articles because you're showing different things.
Sure, and
how
beautiful
you make
work.
things. And this was a fun one.
You have other fine scale modelers you work in too.
There's a few others here. This is my first cover.
Wow, that's great.
With Gorgo, which was the British Godzilla. And that's also a model. Let me find the page here. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. So,
Gorgo.
this is this article.
Wow.
Again, how I built it, how I added detail to the base, how you paint things. This is another cover photo I got on my steampunk airship. Another design that came out of my head, and this is the article here.
Where's this ship?
This ship is still here. I still own it.
good.
It's in the case. This idea, again, an idea that came from something else that I saw. These lift tanks, which I call them, are actually tanks from a 1/32 scale Peterbilt truck.
You're kidding. That's great.
I had done another job that I needed wheels for, and I had the tanks extra. They were just laying there, and I looked at it and I said, gee, that would be kind of interesting to use them for something.
And that's the Peterbilt truck right there?
And that's the Peterbilt truck.
Wow, does he still have that model somewhere? Because that's what we're going to be talking about in a minute.
It's still available, so they're still out there. But this was the inspiration to build this thing. And this article shows the complete construction of the model.
Nice.
And this was also another fun article to do.
You've done great articles. You've worked in an industry for 36 years, if I remember you saying.
Many years. I was in the display industry for at least almost 40 years.
Wow.
So this is the steampunk flying machine model I built in the case, and it was just a fun kit. I mean, these are real chains from HO scale, from N scale railroading, lots of parts from Michael's Art Supplies, but mostly scratch built,
It looks great.
except for the tanks and a few other pieces.
How big is the trailer truck that held those tanks?
It was, well, probably about that big, because the cab was over here.
Oh, it was a tanker truck.
It was a tanker truck.
I get it now.
These are the tanks from the tanker truck. It was a liquid tanker truck.
Well, let me just get that in there. I get it. I see. My friend Leland Prater is going to love this stuff.
You might want to get this one too.
What's that, Jeff?
This one is the Borg cube from Star Trek. This was from First Contact, the movie with the Next Generation crew.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was an inspiration with this thing. This is, it's obviously not lit now. I have to plug in the lighting system. But this was a thing that they used in the show to represent the Borg power supplies that regenerated them.
Oh.
And they made a small one, and I said, wouldn't that be cool to use as a base for the model? So this started out the inspiration to build the cube. And the cube was built over a 10-month period, totally scratch built. It's fully lit inside, and it must have over, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 individual parts to it.
Whoa.
This is a collection of stuff I've built over the years, some new, some old, and you can see that I like a lot of different things. I like figures, I like hardware, classic Dick Tracy comic book vehicles, movie vehicles. This is another one, robots. That's from the movie Silent Running, another one of my favorite movies. Star Trek, Romulan Bird of Prey.
Oh, I love that one.
This was an interesting one. This is from Buck Rogers, the TV show with Jill Gerard.
Oh, wow.
That was the Hawk ship, which was the most interesting design, patterned after a bird, and I found a kit of it online, so I picked it up and built that recently. This one here, this is another one of my scratch build ideas. This is a hover tank that I built a few years ago. I designed it in 1985 or 86. This is what I call a Federation work shuttle from Star Trek of my own design. I designed it about a year ago. I just did a doodle, made a little doodle of an idea, and I just started building. And I've been building since October. And now that I'm retired, I could spend 4 or 5 hours a day out here, which is nice. The inspiration for this whole model was this little part here. And when I was at my job, they were throwing these out. This was a waste piece. This looked like something. It looked like an exhaust port or something from a spaceship. So I grabbed a couple and I brought them home and I left them for about a month. So this part was the inspiration. And what it became was this part here. And what I had started with was 2 of these. And this became the exhaust. I built this, and at that point I didn't know what the rest of the ship was going to look like. But I drew it out and started building. We are at the point now where this is the finished piece. One of them, there are 2. This is the finished piece, the exhaust of the ship. And that goes back here. So this piece goes here, and this becomes the exhaust for the ship, which will have LED lights in it eventually. You can see this was the original design. This is clear, and I thought that's kind of cool. I could paint it and show that the inside is clear, as you can see, and this will become the exhaust for the ship. So this was the inspiration for this whole model, this one little piece. You could see the difference. I mean, from a clear piece that doesn't look like much, it has now become an engine exhaust. Alright, So
I see how it just fits right on in.
Yeah,
Huh?
and it'll be glued on eventually,
Right.
but right now it won't.
Let's take a look at the rest of the ship while we're here.
Okay, so let's take that off. Let's take this off. Put that over there.
Oh.
This is the cargo container. I decided to make a cargo ship. So this is the container, which is, everything is scratch built for this model. That's the container, which sits in here. Now, also the cockpit, I made this in 1/20th scale because I could buy figures in 1/20th scale. So it all comes apart. There will be screws, jeweler's screws to keep things together so you could get the electronics. This is the cockpit area, and you can see the seats and part of the instrument panel, which are not actually attached yet. It's just sitting there. But this is a demonstration. Everything is made by hand. The seat belts, I used ribbon. The seats are made of styrene. The cockpit instrument panel is all done with styrene and parts from trees and model kits and things like that. And
Very detailed.
that's the thing I enjoy. It makes me calm. My wife thinks I'm crazy because she can't, she loves the detail, but she doesn't have the patience for it. Like I tell her, I don't have the patience for doing puzzles. She loves puzzles. I don't have the patience for that, but yet I have the patience for this, which is very strange.
I agree. It's strange. Let's see some of these little characters.
All right, so these are the figures I picked up online, and I decided to do something different. I wanted an all-girl crew for the ship. I said, let's do something different. So I found these 1/20th scale figures, which are absolutely beautifully sculpted. Let me pull her off because it's easy to hold her. Very well sculpted, and they all had the right coveralls for a work crew, and they're painted, they're airbrushed. This one has a pad, which is her. She's controlling something on the ship. I don't know what yet, but we'll figure that out later.
So Jeff, what are some of these trophies you got here?
The trophies are from club contests, from clubs in Long Island and Jersey, and the big Jersey Fest show, and Wonderfest, which is the biggest model show in the country. I did that 2 years ago and won a few trophies there. 5 silvers for the 5 models I entered, which is pretty cool, out of 800 entries, which was pretty amazing. My first time entering, that was kind of nice. And it's just fun. It's just enjoyable. Talking to the guys, meeting people you know online. It's just cool. It's a very entertaining, it's a 3-day show, and it's in Kentucky,
Wow.
which is kind of a trip, but
Kentucky's cool.
Kentucky's cool. It's a very big show, and hoping we have one again this year, because last year's was obviously canceled.
Wow.
And maybe we got one coming up. Hopefully Jersey Fest will be coming up too, and I'm ready for that. I've got a bunch of stuff to bring to that, if they have it. And we'll just see. Keep positive. Let's hope we have them. And it'll be a good thing to get back to see everybody again.
So Jeff, where do you want to be with this? Where is this going to go with you, and where do you want to be in the next 5 years?
Well, because I've done this for a living for so many years, it's nice to be retired. And now I could do it on my own. Just keep modeling, doing my articles. Do
you have a website where people could look at some of your stuff?
I have a website, jpmodelworks.com. I have a portfolio there, and they can see my work, on that. And I'm also on Facebook. We have a Science Fiction Modeler Society page, which has over 8,000 members.
Wow, that sounds fun.
From all over the world. And everybody shares their work, and it's fun to see what other people are doing and share techniques and, ideas, and, just bounce things off each other, which is kind of fun.
That's cool.
And
that's where you want to be.
That's where I want to be. I'll be retired and having fun. I'll never give up this, because this is my life. It's my God-given talent and
Your passion.
my passion, and I can't see wasting it. So I'll just keep going as long as he lets me keep going.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. We got Mr. Scrooge's glasses all fixed up. They look good. Humbug, sir.
Yeah, it's humbug. They look
You can
great.
actually read through them, too. That's important, you know.
Mhm.
And Jeff has an amazing array of work that he's put together. I hope you enjoyed today's show. It's a little different than our normal process, but this is where our show is going now. More on the interview and more on the people who work in the industry, as well as industry people who work in different things that get out there that just happen to dazzle people. Would you say?
I'd say that's a great idea.
So, with that, Joann and I want to close the show and wish everybody yet one more Happy New Year.
Yes.
And it's important you know that the Filmmakers Show is always on every Monday at 3 p.m. on Channel 20. And every month, this monthly magazine comes back with another featured artist. If in fact you are a movie maker, filmmaker, photographer, or anything else, give us a holler. Because what will happen is we like to interview you as well.